Okay, so for something a little bit different this week, I'm going to do a little video on the task today so you can follow it a little bit more clearly on here and just see how that helps you. So what we're going to attempt to model to start off with is a dining room table. As usual, we kind of need to get a little bit of inspiration and see, what we're working with, and just have a look at kind of what we want to create, or what kind of table that you want to create, something within obviously your skill set. So I advise you have a look, find something to work to that you think you're going to be able to model pretty easily. Now, one of the common kind of denominators here is that most of them have a little sort of drop down piece of wood underneath the top, and then the legs are usually towards the end here. There seems to be a little bit of a lip. So let's have a little go, and we'll go through some basic points here. So once Mire's open, as usual, just make sure at the top it's set to modeling, okay? And again, we can move around. By now you should remember how to move around the screen and how to move yourself up and down. Now we're in perspective view. We'll stay that way just for the time being. So as the table is a cuboid kind of shape, let's get a cube in to start off with, and pressing R, let's resize it, okay? And obviously I need to bring this down a little bit, and then let's have a look. It's obviously square at the minute, so let's bring it out this side until we've got kind of a nice tabletop shape. Now with that selected, if we go over to the right hand side here, and we can go into the channel box, and over here, as I showed you a few weeks ago, we can look at all of the data of where we move it to, how we rotate it, and the size of it. So for today, to get this really kind of accurate, let's look at the X scale, which is this length here, and let's reset that rather than moving it around. Let's actually type in, I'm going to go 10, and then the Z scale, which is this way across here, let's get them into real, 10 by 5, so it's twice as long this way than it is this way. And then at the minute the thickness is at 0.2, which is fine, but let's just tidy up that number so we don't have the 9 on there. So 0.2, yeah, that's fine. So now using W, let's just move this up, ready to extrude from. So I'm happy that that's my tabletop. So pressing Q, going back to the arrow key, let's press down, hold space, right click, and let's look at the bottom, okay, of our tabletop. And before we add any other geometry, let's make sure we're in that view, so we can see exactly what it's like underneath, and we'll only select underneath here. So if we go to our mesh tools, I want to create that little lip as it's sat under here. This top bit's clearly sat underneath things. So let's go to mesh tools, insert edge loop, and over here, rather than being in the channel box, let's be in the kind of properties, value, tool settings, and make sure it's set to relative distance from edge. Press X. And then let's think about what we want to do here. Now I can add that in. Let's see if there's a better way of doing that. Let's try equal distance from edge. Okay, so I can put these in like this, okay, to give myself that area to raise, this one here now, this bigger face, I can raise that out to leave a lip. My only concern here is that, are these equal or is it going to be uneven, these new edges, or how big they are? So if I undo that using Control Z, let's just add geometry to all of it. So let's go back into that tool and let's use multiple edge loops. So if I use the same number and I say, okay, I want 10 equal edge loops. Okay, let me show you what happens to start off with. Now if I go on this edge here, you can see, look, it's put 10 equal edges in. And if I do that likewise here, it will. Now, the problem of having 10 and 10 is that it's going to make rectangles, because as we've established, this length is longer than this length. So therefore, the spacing between those edges is going to be shorter here than it is there. So one benefit of having the size of the object set to 10 and 5 means this is double the length of this. So what I could do, on the longer edge, I take a number that's clearly divisible by 2 because it's twice as long. Okay, I go 14. And then along here I halve that value, so I go back in and I go, okay, at this time I want 7. Okay, and now it gives me squares. Now that wasn't the be all and end all, I could have done it without that, okay, but I just think that it gives a kind of cleaner section. So it's just something to consider of why it's worth setting it up in a certain size, because then I know exactly how I need to divide it by. So looking a bit scary, there's tons of faces now on here, but I can now start to shape this. Okay, so I'm looking at that and I go, okay, well I can leave this edge here, all of these faces, as the tabletop, and then in here I could pull these out as, so if I just do right click faces, yeah, I can, you know, if I just give you a visualization, if I was to pull these down, that would give me, you know, quite a deep lip that the table would be sat on. So that's the tabletop. I'd pull that down, that would give me this bit here, yeah, and then I've got to then consider where the legs are going to be. Now if I want to keep things equal, then I might not want to pull that down, because I might want to include all 4 of those within the legs. Okay, so if I now unselect those by holding down Control, I could just pull those down. So let's have a look at that. If I hold down space, right click, go back to perspective view, let's just check nothing else was selected. Okay, remember what we've been learning the last couple of weeks is if other faces are selected when we extrude, it's going to cause problems. So I'm happy that just those are selected. Now I could go to edit mesh, or as I will do now, I just press Control and E. Okay, it now opens up the extrude tool, and either using the extrude face properties, or here obviously I can start to pull this down. Okay, now we remember this was set at 0.2, so I'll tell you what, I'll set the translate to 0.2 as well, so then I know that that thickness is the same as the tabletop. It doesn't have to be, but I'll do that, is what I'll do for mine. So now if I look at this, just so look at a side view, doesn't matter right or left, Okay, and I look at that, I've got that clear tabletop and that lip. Now what I might do is go, well, I'll make that a bit bigger, maybe something like, you know, 0.3 if I want to in there, yeah. And you can type that in, you can have a look at whatever you want. So let's tell you what, I'll go back to 0.2, but you can decide how big you want that to be, alright. And then when I'm happy, I press enter. Okay. Now I need to get the legs out of this. So again, hold down space, right click, go to bottom view. Alright, and what you won't see here, because this is perfectly, you know, to the bottom, you won't see that those have already been extruded, but I know they are by looking at the other view. Now this time I'm going to click, and to get more than one, if we hold down shift, I can select these legs here, or what I want to be the legs. Okay, hold down space, right click, perspective view. Again, let's just check. Yeah, it's fine. Control and E to extrude. And let's bring those down. Okay, and let's just have a little look around. It's okay. If I was to critique this already, I think what I would go on to change is actually now the thickness of these two. I think now that we've got quite thick legs here, that might be something I would change, is have that a bit, you know, a bit higher. So let's take those down. Now one thing you can do, if you want to snap anything, up the top here there's some magnetic tools where you can get it to snap to certain things, and there's one here which is snap to grid. If I have that selected and I hold down X, okay, I can ensure that it snaps to certain areas. So I'm happy that now that is snapped down to the grid. Okay, and I can have a look around my model. I've got a lip, I've got legs, and again, looking at that here, I would say, well, yeah, the legs are probably too big in comparison to my tabletop. Tabletop probably needs to come up a little bit, I would say, for me to be happy with that. Now I could do that, you know, right now. I just select all of these faces. Now I'm doing it the long way because I want to make sure that I've only got these selected. Yeah, just go around, just double check. Yeah, okay. And what I then can do once I've got them all selected is I'll just extrude them up, make it a bit, you know, a bit bigger. What I could also do at this point is delete all of those edges to make it one big face again if I want to. But you know, let's just check around the model. Okay, and see, the problem is when you drag around, that's when it tends to pick up other edges, so you just need to be cautious of that, and if you do, ensure that they are unselected. Okay, so it may seem like it's quicker to just drag and try to select, but in the long run, not really, to be honest with you. Let's see some more that are up there, so just check the model. Looks okay, so now I'll do Control and E and I'll extrude this up, okay, until I'm happy. Something like that, possibly. I think I could be happy with. Alright. And then if I then want to bring the lip back into the model, Okay, by lip I mean the fact that the edge here is clearly further out this way than this underneath bit. Then all I need to do here, okay, is extrude these edges out. Okay, so these faces, should I say, rather than edges. So let's go around. Select all of these faces. And then Control E. Yeah. And I can give it a nice little edge to it. Because it's going out as a whole, it's taking out the edge to it as well, which is, yeah, it's quite a nice look. If I don't want that, then I'll just choose the thickness instead. Yeah. If I want the round edges, then I could use the local translate and it will round off the edges. Now this is giving me a kind of nice 3-tier effect. Yeah, a proper tabletop with 2 underneath. Not intentional to start off with, but I think it's corrected the model to make it look now, you know, quite nice. I'm quite happy with how that now looks. So I could tidy up the model, which I think is quite important, to be honest, by selecting all the faces, and then, you know, I can right click, I could delete, you know, various bits of it to get rid of the edges. I can merge them down. So if I get my edges, highlight all my edges, you know, I could start to delete those and make that one face rather than all, which for exporting out would be, you know, more beneficial. But this is where we want to get to come the end. Now you can go further. You could taper edges down by selecting vertices of it and moving them around. Okay, but the first thing you're going to make is a nice table that looks something like that. So have a go at that one for me.